they come, if they arrive late. Susan, you've just started recording, is that right? Okay, good. So that means that we can post that into Slack and people can have a look at that or share that with colleagues later on, if that's useful. So we've got an hour and a half, and I'd post
an hour. We've got
an hour. I'd posted into Slack yesterday about how we could structure this session. So this session is an open session. There isn't a guest speaker as such for these sessions, but like Susan says, the point of them is a chance to kind of connect in with each other, reconnect to the program, I think, because when you go away from these sessions back into your daily life, I don't know how easy it is to reconnect. So reconnect back into the program and to share what we're doing, what we're learning. And what I'd also posted into the Slack was that we had suggested last time the Frederick Laloux book, Reinvent an Organisation. So people may have read that. And if we have time for that, some reflection on what have you learned from that and what's popping up for you. So hopefully that will work. We could probably do with a really quick conversation before we finish about Doug Kirkpatrick, who is on the next webinar. So yes, I'll leave that for then. Okay, so let's do a check-in. And the check-in question that we've got is who you are. And this is just to get your head back into the program and back into why you joined this in the first place. So something that work has helped you to learn about yourself. So that's the question. Something that work has helped you learn about yourself. Okay.
I just popped that into the chat, so in case people.
Okay. Do you want to go first, Susan?
Oh, no.
That's because you spoke. Okay, Natasha.
Hey, I'm bravely going first, just saying. Work has helped me learn about myself that the world won't actually stop moving if I'm not there and not onto my work. That's what work's helped me learn about myself.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Natasha. Okay, who wants to go next? Louise, I think you might be talking, but you're on mute at the moment. There we go.
Muted me, so I'll go first. Next, what I've actually learned about myself is when on an island that we really do need others around us to be able to contribute and to be able to make everything that we touch and do more successful.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go next.
Okay.
Certainly over the last few weeks, what I've learned about myself is all that rushing around and coping to do things on my own just never worked. And now that we've been able to spread my load a little bit, I've learned that I'm much happier and far more productive than when I was trying to manage everything on my own. So I guess back to Louisa's point, yes, I'm not an island. I do need lots of people's input, even if it's only a conversation about what we're doing and how we're doing it. So, bit of a pain in the butt, really, but that's me.
Thank you, Patricia. Great, thank you. Hey, who wants
to joined me. Hi, Kate.
Hi, lovely.
Kate. Sorry, I couldn't get my Zoom thing to, it's getting all hot and bothered, so I've just ran to Megan's office across the car park.
Okay. Okay. Well, welcome here. So we're just doing a check-in, and the question for the check-in this morning is something that work has helped you to learn about yourself.
Oh.
Do you want to wait a couple of minutes or do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll have a wee think. I'm sure I've got a couple of things there.
Okay, Susan?
Many moons ago, work helped me to learn that I don't have to be good at everything. I think especially as a woman, trying to make one's way in the workplace, at least my experience was I thought that in order to be, I guess, noticed and recognized, I had to be brilliant at everything. And yeah, work helped me realize that I don't.
Okay, Alison?
The wrong thing as well. Get the right button. So just following on from what Susan said there, similar pressures that I always felt that I needed to do everything perfectly. I'm learning now that failure is okay, and that even when I fail, I'm actually still pretty good at my job. But they're just coming down that, you know, you don't have to be perfect, but you can still get a sense of satisfaction. And I'm still reassured even with failure.
I'll go. Olivia. I think work, probably in the last couple of years, has helped me learn that I am more confident than my inner voice would tell me that I am.
I'd agree with that.
Okay.
I see. Will I go?
Yes.
Okay, so it's Fiona here. I think that in recent, work's taught me a lot of things, a lot of learnings, but in recent times in our organisational restructure, I actually feel more confident because I don't have to know everything. You know, I can, you know, you don't actually have to know everything. You can got a strong network around you and your team who actually know. It's actually better if they know different things than you do, so that we don't have to know everything. So I think in the last maybe 5 months, I need to ask my team right enough, but that I have become more confident and able to step back from having to know everything and hopefully give them better advice to make their decisions on.
Cool. Thank you, Fiona. Okay.
I think that led me. I hate talking on this thing. So work has, I think, taught me more recently that that it's possible to learn to disagree without being disagreeable.
Great, thank you. Okay, who's left? Eric? I can just see you.
Hi. Our internet's a bit dodgy.
Okay.
Can you guys hear us?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, that's a tough question. I think work has taught me my own level of resilience. You know, we work in a pretty edgy field, so you know, you learn sort of the bounds of your own invincibility, which is not necessarily invincible.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Okay.
Marissa?
Marissa, you were just keeping your head down.
I'm trying to hide. What has work taught me? I guess that what has been said, that you don't have to know everything. But I guess for me, it's learning that I don't have to control everything. You know, that I can trust other people to say, kind of step back and allow people to make their own mistakes without getting in there and fixing it straight away. I think that's my big one.
Okay, brilliant, thank you.
Renee?
Where am I? Oh, yeah. I think I'm a bit similar to the lady that just spoke about, you know, I'm not an island. I tend to take everything on board as my problem, and I've got to fix, you know, everything. So what I'm learning to do is to work as a team and rely on other people to help me achieve what goals I've set for myself.
Okay. And then I think there's just me left. So I think the thing that popped up for me was, I think work has helped me learn that I need other people to think, to be able to think through things, to be able to get perspective or gain perspective, because I lose perspective really quickly, especially if things are tough. Yeah, and I think I can't do that without other people. Yeah, so that's mine. Okay, so welcome everybody then. So we're here. So we planned that we were going to look at some of our experiments, whether you still have experiments going or not. That's part of the test, I think, to see where we're at. So can you raise your hand if you are in an experiment and you have something to share about that? Okay, so we have the Avivo team. Okay. Megan, you shared last time, didn't you, about your experiment? So do you feel like yours is done? Or are you on to something else?
Unmute, love.
I think, yeah, I mean, that one is done, but I think we've got probably a few different experiments happening at the same time. But yeah, there's probably a reflection on that rather than
Okay.
maybe, yeah.
Okay, great. So we've got the Avivo team, Megan and Fiona. Vanessa, Patricia and Louise, do you have an experiment ongoing at the minute?
We were just talking, we've kind of finished the one we started and we're just having a chat about what we've got going or what we're going to start next. So, not really sure.
But we are doing some internal training around team building at the moment. So we hope to progress from there into more self-directed teams. So that's a whole new journey going forward.
Okay.
But we're just trying to embed some organisation-wide training at the moment.
Right. Okay. So we'll keep you on the list then as potentially people who are willing to share. Eric and your team, Marissa, are you in the middle of an experiment or not?
Yeah, we are. It's been a difficult process for us just because of what's happening within the organisation at the moment. We've had a particularly challenging set of scenarios, unprecedented really for the organisation as far as sort of new developments. But regardless of that, we've still been able to make a little bit of headway with the project that we've sort of tried to get started.
Okay.
Not as much as we would have liked, but that's just the nature of where we're at the moment.
Okay, that's cool. So, Rita, welcome to the group. Nice to see you. So we've just done a check-in, Rita, and now we're at a point where we were checking in with people to see, are they in the middle of an experiment? Have they completed an experiment? And are they in a position to share with us what they've done, what they've learned? So Rita, are you in the middle of an experiment or?
Well, the organisation is, should I say. Sorry, I was late, by the way. I had another back-to-back meeting that ran over. So our original experiment we've decided just to put on hold at the moment because we've got a series of organisation-wide change happening at the moment in regards to our employee harmonisation. So we're currently in the process of running some COGs. We're calling them COGs, but they're basically like town halls for staff because we're looking at our employee benefits across the organisation because we're 3 organisations who've merged. So we're asking their input about which ones they wanted because all the different organisations had different, perks in their contracts. And so we're trying to align those at the moment. So that's kind of the big project that's happening across the organisation. So that's our experiment to see, we're out there asking all our staff what they want and what the preferences are.
Right. Okay. Okay then. So what if, so Susan, you're going to facilitate this conversation, aren't you? So that we can get out of your experiments. All of us can learn something from your experiments. So I'll hand over to you, Susan, but that means we've got Avivo, Megan and Fiona, Eric and team, SDS, and then I think we've just heard from Rita. So I wonder if we wait for Rita, if we put Rita at the end of the list and then see where we get to. Is that okay with you, Rita?
Yes, it is. That's fine.
Right. Okay, cool.
So thanks. What I thought I might do, since Avivo was furiously raising their hands first, practice a particular process, a particular liberating structure called wise crowds to practice a different way of like listening and asking questions and giving feedback. So the way that this particular process works is that I'll ask Avivo in 2 minutes to describe what you've done and what you've learned. Then I'm going to open it to the floor and go through everybody one by one and ask for clarifying questions. So if anybody has a question to clarify what they've just heard. Then I'm going to ask the Avivo ladies to turn their screen off. And the rest of us will have a conversation for about 5 minutes around what we just heard, what we think, what we might suggest. And the Avivo ladies, while we're doing that, will be scribing to yourselves what you've heard. Then after 5 minutes, you'll turn your video back on and you'll share back what you've heard. And so this particular process, I think, enlivens a few things. It gives us practice in not reacting instantly to what we're hearing by focusing on clarifying questions. And certainly in the process where the people that aren't involved that have heard are sort of liberating and coming up with ideas, to be able to do that without having to see the reactions of who we're feeding back to, because body language and the propensity to want to defend or challenge or clarify can come on really strong when we're doing this. So it's just a lovely little practice. Doesn't take very much time, but I thought at least for this one experiment we could try that there. Does that sound good to everybody? Great. So what I need to do is I do want to put a little bit of a time box around this, just to make sure that we have a chance to for everybody else to reflect, even if we don't use the same process for everybody else. So ladies, you've got 2 minutes. Take it away.
Okay, we just used up a couple of seconds unmuting the microphone, but that's okay. So our experiment was to commit to 10% of our week where we connect and talk about how we are progressing in our own areas, I suppose.
Just to think, to have a chance and a space to think about what are we doing about self-management, to reflect on how we're feeling about any experiments that we are undertaking. But it was just to carve out that time to give ourselves space to do whatever it was that we chose to do.
And to see at the end of that experiment what difference that made, carving out that amount of time in a week.
Yeah. So I think one of the challenges that we've found is committing to that 10%. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it's that work versus work thing that we've talked about, that, you know, the things on the to-do list sometimes
with deadlines on.
With deadlines, yes. The very important things on the to-do list have priority over us meeting for an hour, 2 hours to connect and to talk about the different things that we've been working on, either ourselves, so the readings that we've been doing, or that we've been working on with our own team. So I think that's definitely one of the challenges that we've come up against.
And I think what has sort of added to the difficulty in coming together is that we each work in very different areas of the organisation. So perhaps if we'd all sat in one area or been connected to the one area, it might have been easier to coordinate that time to come together.
But I like us, we've set up a meeting every week to have that space, and I think that's really good because I use that space.
Thumbs up.
Okay, yep. So what do we do now?
Right, now we do a round of clarifying questions, and I want to be very specific on this. So I will ask the first question, and the response that I'd like from the three of you is just a very quick answer. If I do feel you diverging into another area or answering another question, I'll stop you. And if the answer to the question is not specified in what you just talked about, please say not specified. So I'll go first. What was your hypothesis in choosing this experiment?
that we would find out whether we would actually have any change. What level of change would we achieve if we put 10% of our time to spend on thinking about change or self-management?
Kate, do you have a clarifying question?
The 10%, what I heard, so I just want to check this is right, is to think about self-management. Is that so that was what the 10% was for?
Yeah, to dedicate time towards either sharing what we've been doing in our teams around self-management, the readings that we've been doing, the explorations we've been doing.
How we felt?
Yep.
Or to do something in that time.
Thanks. Megan, do you have a clarifying question? Fiona?
I didn't have any. I don't know. I'm thinking about a question because I hear what they're saying. I do hear it because just so much stuff gets in the way of doing that. But
you don't have to have a question.
Have you come across any gaps in their staffing, like so when they're trying to look at self-management? You know, because each person's got a role to play. Have they come across any staffing issues through that?
No.
It wasn't really what we were trying to look at in the...
Oh, okay, yeah.
Within our own teams?
Within my own team, I can answer no to that. Yeah.
Great. Thanks. Vanessa, Patricia, clarifying questions?
No, not really. Have you had a week at all where you have actually had that catch up?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we did some great work. That was the wall.
That was a reaction, ladies. Ladies, you mustn't react. Only answer the questions.
I have a question.
Great.
When you first agreed to these meetings, did you also agree of how you would track or determine the success of your meetings?
No, we didn't make a plan or have structure.
Okay.
Great, thanks. Eric, ladies, clarifying question?
I do. Sorry, Eric, did you want to go first?
Go ahead, Rita.
Okay. Did you actually segregate time every week, like diarise it?
Yep, it's a regular calendar event. Yeah,
in a room.
Yep.
Thanks, Rita. Stephen, do you have a clarifying question?
I guess for me, did you guys find that by setting those times, 10% of that time across each week, did you feel like your workload was then backtracked, so it made it a little bit more difficult staying on top of everything?
Yeah, I think that's probably why some of them we haven't done them. We haven't met because the workload's been, the work versus the work, I suppose, has been too much. Yeah.
Great,
but it has presented us with an opportunity to make a choice and think about what's more important.
Eric, ladies, clarifying questions?
No questions from our end at this stage.
Great. We'll just do a sweep up. Anybody thought of anything else? I've got one more. If you were to set up the experiment again, would you put more constraints around what it was for?
Mine would be no, because it's still booked into our diary as an ongoing thing, and I'm happy to continue it as is at this stage.
Thanks. All right. Any more from any more? If not, ladies, can you just turn your video off?
Just the video.
Just the video and
then mute.
Yeah, just the video and mute yourselves. And then on the bottom, next to where it says mute, it should say stop video. Just click on that. Lovely. All right. So while the ladies are taking notes without us being able to see their faces. We have got 5 minutes to have a conversation about the experiment, what we think, what we noticed. Just free-flowing conversation. I'm not going to call on people.
I wonder if it was more sort of purposeful, or there was a clearer sort of outcome strived for at the end of each meeting, if it would have been prioritised more highly for people to get together.
Yeah, I think the reason that I asked the question was more on that outcome side, but I guess I'm also pretty okay with the idea of putting that time aside to actually think together and think about what they're learning, think about what they're seeing, sharing, because I know that the ladies work cross-functionally in the organization. Yeah, I feel like I'm not too worried about a specific outcome, but I do also agree, Megan, that maybe that affected the way they're prioritizing their time.
I think I'm a bit with Megan. So I think what I heard was, I suppose there's a couple of things running around my head. So one of the things I heard at the Rebels was 10% of your time to do what you love. So to work alongside other people on something that you are really passionate about, which I know is where some of the big innovations from Google came from. So I suppose I think I was partly under the impression that the group were doing 10% on something that they loved. And then I think, similar to Megan, I wonder if the group had, so that 10% time, there was a really specific goal. So I don't know, find out what the organisation thinks about self-management, or find out what the organisation thinks about rating their managers, or a task that I think they still could use their learning on a task as opposed to coming together and sharing learning. Because I can really understand the temptation to, I can go to a chat, or I can do all this work and I'll do this work. So that's probably, I think I'm similar to Megan around, I wonder if the goal needs to be a bit tighter. That's my observation.
And I wonder if that's a mindset thing for all of us that need to change, because I think about when we all log off today, like what are we doing? Yeah, like how are we prioritising this, and how are we making sure that we're embedding some of that learning, and why don't we see that as important, and should we all be scheduling thinking time into our diary and putting it as thinking time in our diary, and not feeling like because we're thinking we're not doing anything. Like really starting to work that within organisations.
I think there's a lot of data to validate that, Megan, that it's important to do that. And yeah, I mean, I would probably go the other way, that doing that with a committed group of peers. Yeah, I think it's a balance, right? We're striving towards outcome, and I guess it's the question we're trying to ask or answer. Are we answering the question, trying to answer the question for them as to how to feel like they can prioritize it more, or whether or not the actual experiment is valid? What about anybody else?
For me, what I'm picking up on is what you've said is about doing 10% every time, doing something you love. And when I reflect back on what I've learnt about leadership and change management, most of it's learnt from just talking to other people. So I think the fact that they've segregated that time to do that, whether or not it has a purposeful outcome or not, whether there is an aim or a tighter outcome that they wanted, for me it's about making it important and having setting some criteria about what is considered not okay not to attend the meeting. So, what's so critical that you can't spend that hour? Was it actually really critical, or you just wanted to finish up what you were doing? Or, for me, it's about determining what's critical that you can't attend that meeting.
That's really interesting, Rita.
Building burning down, staff member injured, customer injured, or whatever whatever your industry is, crisis, yes, maybe making that the criteria, you know, walls falling down around you, can't attend their meeting, or is it just, you know, there's other stuff that I can put off but choose not to.
What about the voices we haven't heard?
I guess some of it's about measurability as well. Like, how do you measure the effectiveness of the time that's spent? And I guess, you know, any good science experiment needs to be measurable and have sort of parameters that you know it's being effective. And I guess my question is just, how are they measuring the outcomes that they're wanting to achieve from a week to week basis?
I guess for me, it's more around, rather than just having that set meeting that I try to have with Vanessa, or we try to have together once a week to work on the changes. It's more about bringing it to the forefront so that we're thinking of it day to day, not just in that one segment. Like today, we're here in this session, so we'll think about this, but what happens when we leave this session? Does it get put aside till the next time? So for me, it's bringing it more to the forefront so that we're looking at it every day in what we do, rather than just having this segmented time to do things. If that makes sense.
Sure. Stephen, anything before we ask the ladies to put their video back on and share back?
I guess I can relate where sometimes that 10% of time to be able to allocate, it can be quite difficult depending on, are you going through review processes, what your job role is, just one of your consumers got some type of emergency that's not just on the day, but it lasts throughout the week where you're trying to put that one together. Because I do believe that myself as well, I should be spending 10% of my time focused on something that I really enjoy. And I think it would increase my health and well-being as well. But taking the time to actually do that, maybe it's just a mindset and a mentality that needs to be practiced. So, yeah.
Great, ladies, will you switch your video back on and in maybe 30 seconds each, can you share what you wrote down and what you heard with no reaction from the crowd?
I'll go first. Okay. So I definitely heard being a little bit more specific about the reasons why we might be meeting might help us to be more disciplined, I suppose, in meeting regularly. I also really liked having the clarification around solid reasons why we wouldn't meet. So hopefully the building doesn't catch on fire, but, you know, we have some things that, and if we do cancel, maybe we try and reschedule in that week. I've been doing that with the team I work with where things slide, but we still try and keep that dedicated time. The measurement thing was really interesting. So I keep on struggling against that. How do we measure the effectiveness? But I think it was Kate's point about having those specific tasks. So using that time to, you know, ask a question of the organisation or something might help us to, we're still learning and sharing, but we also have an outcome.
Right.
And yeah, just striving the balance between, the work and the work.
Cool. Natasha, what about you?
So for me, I was hearing a lot about, you know, the clarity around the experiment, about what that 10% of time was about. Might be helpful to have more clarity. I was hearing that the 10% of time to be together and to think is also a really good thing, and that we can get better as we practice that. So, which I really agree with. That there's something about how do we prioritise that time and how do we make sure that we're able to be there. And that might be around a complete change of mindset as well, you know, when it comes to prioritising that time. The stuff around measuring the experiment is really interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Thanks, Alison. Anything that you heard that the other two didn't?
No, similar, the same issues really. Yeah, and the only thing really is that when Eric mentioned about the measurability and said a good science experiment, and I thought what I heard there, or my response to that, was we're not doing science. And I feel that we would in time be able to measure. We could measure, yeah. But yeah, good that just hearing a lot that it's important to do this stuff.
Yeah, great, cool. I'm just going to do something clever in Zoom that I've not done before. That it's a new thing that they have. So, just launched a poll. Have you seen it come up on your thing? So the question I asked is, we've got 20 minutes left. Should we do another Wise Crowds or just get updates from the rest of the team? So if you think we should do another Wise Crowds, say yes. If you think we should just get updates from the other teams, click no. Ooh. Okay, just by a pip. Can you see the poll results? Is there something where it asks if you can see the poll results? So if I end the poll, maybe you'll be able to. All right, can you see the result now?
No.
Share results. I have to click that.
Oh, we
can now. Look at that.
Yeah. All right. Well, just pipped at the post. So, Megan, Fiona, do you want to go?
Susan, as you know, Uniting Care West is going through a whole of organisation renewal currently, which so we've had different role changes and stuff. So we have developed, so we've got new. Obviously, some people left, some people stayed. So we've got new roles like practice leaders and place managers. So we've put a team together, a bit like the Avivo team put a team together of ourselves, because we need to be able to start working to move the organisation forward, so to speak, along with support from our teal team. So we've just sort of put that together. So I don't have the only small. So what we've done so far is we've put principles in for the team, and we've been doing an agenda. But we've only met twice. And I feel that some of the feedback just got from the Avivo team there is very useful, because what I feel is that meeting has just gone back to a meeting, like looking at, they might want to review the organisation's after-hour service, whereas I don't think that is not what the aim was. The aim was to be experimenting in our areas and bringing it back and trying to make it, put measurements in and what would be achievable, because our team leaders, team facilitators roles will be changing a bit as well as we move down through the self-organised teams. So I'm not sure I've got much reflection yet, because I've just got some learning there that I'm going to take back to that team, if that makes sense.
That's great. And I guess that maybe answered the question. So maybe we'll just go and get an update from everybody else. Does anybody have any questions for Fiona? I guess I do. I guess the question I have is the principles. How did you come to the principles? Was it a co-created process? Was it a small team that did that? How did you do that process?
It was all the practice leaders and place managers that came to our principles, which is really, some of it was obviously around trying to keep everything focused on the vulnerable people that we support, and because some of the discussions can become quite heated on what people's thoughts are and where the process should be going. And I guess on that, the 5 dysfunctions of a team, building that trust, and then having definitely there has been a couple of conflict about what we should be be doing, because it's a a fairly big organisation that we're having to make the changes in, and it is difficult. So many different areas, between the children's, the homeless, the disability, and not one size is going to fit all. So how we're going to measure and work together as a team, basically, to bring the teams along.
Thanks.
That makes sense.
Any other questions for Fiona or Megan? Who'd like? Oh, sorry, Alison.
How many people in the team?
There's 3 place managers, and hang on, children, 2, 3, 4, 5 practice leaders, so 8 in the team. So the practice leaders, so what we did was we took away the management structure. So we sort of went back in to redo our, apply for different roles and that. So we're now practice leaders over a more of an area instead of being a manager of 1 or 2 areas. So for me, I'm the practice leader for children's services. So I cover all children's services within Uniting Care West, so to speak, in the child protection space, counselling space, and any child that would come into Uniting Care West. But I can also be supported in the individualised services by the practice leader of individualised services, through disability or all that sort of thing. So that's where we took that from. And then so that condensed the team, and now we sort of are trying to develop our team leaders, the operational side of it, so that we can more or less take a bit of a step back from the operations as such, obviously still supporting in budgets and what's compliant or not, but to be better practice, because we can do much better practice.
So it's quite interesting that United Care West is going through a big transformation. Any of the other teams here just literally trying little experiments? What about you, Stephen, Rita?
Sorry, was that for me?
Yeah, Steve. Yeah. What
Yeah,
are you doing a little experiment at the minute?
Yeah, the experiment that we were doing was around just kind of giving the control to the frontline staff for the situations. So we basically gave out not gift cards, but EFT POS passes, with the expectation that whatever they're going to do with the consumer's best interest, and also keeping the interest of the company in mind as well. So just a bit of background on the team that I chose to do a bit of a trial on. The guy that we support, very, very complex. We've got intellectual disability, acquired brain injury, alcohol and meth use is a really big one. It's been a very, very challenging dynamic to keep him out of prison. So he does have a background that he was in prison previously. And I'd say for me, it was effective because they didn't need to double check with me when they needed to diffuse a situation. And diffusing that situation, sometimes it's on the moment, on the fly, and it could be as easy as, hey, so-and-so, why don't we go grab a coffee or go shoot pool? They don't need to call me and ask me, is it okay if we get him out of this situation and go do something positive in the day, and they could redirect him. And they felt empowered. So we had the meeting on yesterday. I met with the entire team, asked them how it's been going. It doesn't fix the complexities or anything that is going on in there. There's a lot of work that we have to do, but I do feel that the staff overwhelmingly have said that they do like to have that kind of that choice and control, and that feel a bit empowered with that, where I'm not micromanaging those situations, because I might not be available on the fly to just be able to pick up the phone and say yes to something. I want them to be able to think in the moment and then report back to me. So we are going to continue. The discussion that I had with them is that I will do another round of this and keep it going for the time being. And on the flip side, to be quite honest, it made it a lot easier for myself as well, just measurable with the amount of the EFTs that I used to have to process when these situations came up, and then picking up the phone and okaying them. So it's actually kind of alleviated a little bit of work stress, which is nice as well. So it's a win-win situation.
And Stephen, what do you think the chances are of it being adopted by other teams in the organization?
I think pretty good. I'm having a meeting with my team leader. She actually attended the meeting on Monday, so she's the one who gave me the approval to continue with this team. And I would like to roll it out into a couple of my other teams. It's probably, I wouldn't say it's going to organizationally, it's going to happen overnight, but I personally would like to continue. And she seemed quite open to that, as far as like, she saw that it did reduce the stress load for me. She sat there and she got the feedback from my staff that they were saying how they were utilizing it, what kind of situations they would use it in. And this particular team did very, very well, also with the communication, because we used WhatsApp, how they were using it, what was the situation, and this is what they did. So I think we got really positive feedback from it.
Great. Any quick questions for Stephen? Julia?
Have you had any pushback from any other areas in the organisation, like finance?
No pushback whatsoever. So it's not coming from his funding or anything like that. We have a contingency pool, like for the company. My team itself has a philanthropy thing, so we could do nice things from time to time. And we're given a budget for the year, so that's literally what I pulled out. And some people never even use it, but that's what we pulled it out of. So yeah, we were okay on that.
Any other questions for Stephen? Cool. Who would like to go next? I think we have time for maybe 2 more shares.
I've just seen Megan's reflection in the chat. So Megan, I'm really interested around that. Are you willing to say a bit more about it?
I think people get comfortable in their ways of working, and because we're taking on this challenge as a whole organisation, it's a really big challenge, and it really is about culture change, and changing cultures is hard, and I think particularly in times of sort of stress or pressure, the temptation is to dive back in and start to kind of direct traffic and control things, rather than support people to think about what it is they need to do, and I guess encourage them and give them the confidence to think through those things and make those decisions for themselves. And then there's little things that just creep in. So you'll see something about, so I saw a training sort of thing that has been proposed for the organisation. And one of the things on there was managing self-organising teams. And it just seemed like such an oxymoron to be managing a self-organising team. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people get sick of you pointing out that people get sick of you pointing out those kinds of things to them. It's hard.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, that's dead helpful. That's really helpful for me. And I think about working in Avivo, to have a contract with Avivo, and there are times externally that when I talk about what Avivo's doing, it's pretty exciting. And then when I come back inside Avivo, it feels like sometimes we're trying to push it up a hill, and doesn't feel exciting at all. You know, it feels really difficult and really hard and really painful. Yeah, so that's partly why I was really attracted to your comment, because I was thinking, I think I'm maybe in that headspace at the moment, which, was really helpful.
I was very attracted to it, and I'm thinking maybe for this session, not this session that we have with Doug coming up, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second, but our reflection section next month, it might be actually nice to have a session strictly on that. So how do we as humans, trying to make the change and be the change in organizations, help keep ourselves supported and motivated to continue with this work, and also recognize when people are struggling and falling back into old patterns and how hard it is, right? Nobody said that self-management, self-organizing was easier. I think the hypothesis that I have is that it's healthier and more human, and in the long run, going to make us happier individuals and better servants to the people that we provide support to. but nobody said it was easy, and nobody said we weren't going to backslide. So, yeah, I'll just keep that in my mind for potentially a hard, but I think super important topic for discussion next time.
Louise has just put a hand up. Are you there, Louise? Looks like you've frozen.
I don't see Louise at all.
Louise is in with Vanessa and Patricia. Hello. But it looks like they're frozen.
It does. So just before we go into our checkout, just a little bit of a preface on Doug. So, just quickly, who has actually read or glimpsed Reinventing Organizations, the book? And so, if you have, you will have read one of the case studies and the stories. And there is a company in California, a tomato processing plant called Morningstar. And Doug Kirkpatrick was instrumental in the movement and the creation of the Self-Management Institute, which came out of the work at this tomato processing plant. And he is, wow, he's hard to describe. He's one of the most amazing mentors to me, for sure, in this hard stuff, right? This way of working. But his big focus is on making and keeping commitments to one another, and how important that is. His mentor is a gentleman named Peter Kestenbaum that wrote a book called Freedom and Accountability at Work. And I'll put that in the Slack, and maybe we could take a look at that for those who are interested for our Book of the Month Club book next time. So I will pop in a couple of videos, a couple of his articles he writes for Huffington Post and Forbes, and some really short, sharp, great articles. And yeah, just I guess come prepared to ask questions around everything from self-selecting salaries to team-based performance reviews to how contract or casual workers can also benefit and participate in self-managing organizations. Because even though they're a tomato processing plant, I think there are lots of similarities potentially with this sector as well in terms of some casual and contract staff. So yeah, really looking forward to that.
So for those who have read Reinventing Orgs, I wonder if we can take that conversation onto Slack. So what has jumped out, if you've read it, then it's definitely, I think it's a great book to have some conversation about. So what about we give that a go? So if you've read it, we take it onto Slack and see, what we're all thinking about it.
Great, thanks. Let's just do a quick checkout, and let's make it super simple. Say goodbye in your language of choice. So I'll start. Adios, Kate. And
goodbye.
Pass it on. Pass it on, Kate.
Oh, Megan.
See you later, Fiona. Cheerio.
Pass it on, Fiona, to somebody.
Oh, sorry, Julia. Are they muted?
You're muted, Julia.
You're muted.
We missed the joke. You're still muted.
Oh, sorry, I just made the whole screen disappear. I thought we'd cut you off completely. And that wasn't it. See ya.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Vanessa.
Bye.
How about Stephen?
Hasta luego.
Okay. Bye. Catch ya.
You on the Slacks, and see you in a couple of weeks for Doug. Cheerio. Bye.
Thanks, Susan. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Hasta la vista.